Good morning, chestnuts, and welcome to Tuesday's maths lesson where we're going to be doing our final focus on timesing, dividing and learning the 4 times tables. Hopefully you've become really confident at them, because today we're going to be learning to recite them off by heart, which means that we can say them without having to look at a piece of paper. And as soon as someone says 2 times 4, you can say 8. Or as soon as someone says 40 divided by 10, you can say 4. So hopefully today you'll get really confident at using your 4 times tables, ready to move on to the 8 times tables tomorrow. The first thing we're going to have a look at here is our starter task. And I want you to have a think, how many apples can you see in these bags? And how would you represent that as a multiplication? Hopefully you've noticed that there's 4 apples in each bag, and there are 6 bags, so we've got 4 times 6, okay? Or you could say that there are 6 bags with 4 apples in each, which is 6 times 4, which equals 24. For the second one, it says write a multiplication equation to represent the fish. Again, we need to think, how many bowls are there? There are 4 bowls, and how many fish are in each, which is 3. So 4 multiplied by 3, and in total gives us 12 fish. For the final part, it asks you to complete the number track. Hopefully you've noticed that this is an example of the 4 times tables, and we are adding 4 each time. So we've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 18, 24, then 28, 32, 36, 40, 44 and 48. Our question today is, can I recite the 4 times tables? And to be successful in doing this, you need to use your multiplication knowledge, use your division knowledge, and be able to say your times tables to someone off by heart. The first thing we're going to do is become experts. What times tables does this picture show? So think back to our starter task. How many plates are there? How many cookies are there on each plate? We've got 5 plates and there are 4 cookies on each. 5 lots of 4 biscuits equals 20. Have a think what the multiplication would look like for this. Hopefully you've thought that it would be 5 times 4 equals 20. Let's have a go at another. How many punnets of eggs are there and how many eggs are in each? We've got 4 lots of 6 eggs, which is 24 eggs in total. Now think, what would the multiplication look like? 4 times 6 equals 24. We've been using arrays a lot in maths, especially when it comes to multiplication, because they're a really good way of visualizing what the multiplication looks like. So what times table did this array show? Remember, we look at how many are down the side and how many are along the top. Now, it can show us 2 different types of multiplication. If we look at the rows first, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of 8, and 4 times 8 equals 32. But we could also look at the columns. And the columns show us that we've got 8 columns of 4, and 8 times 4 also equals 32. So that's 2 different ways that we can multiply using the numbers 8 and 4 to get 32. Hopefully you'll remember that arrays can also show us division. So what division calculations does this array show? If you need to, you can pause the video and copy this down and have a go yourself. Remember, use the multiplication facts that we've just learnt to try and help you. Hopefully, you've thought of the fact that we can share 32 into 4 groups, which means 32 divided by 4 equals 8, because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dots in each row. But it can also show us that we can group 32 into groups of 4. And if we had it in groups of 4, there would be 8 groups in total, which means 32 divided by 8 equals 4. What you've hopefully learned from this is that there tends to be 4 different ways that we can write multiplication and division calculations that link together. I'll show you an example. So what we've done here today is we've said 4 times by 8 equals 32. And we also know that 8 multiplied by 4 equals 32. Then if we think about the division, we've got 32 divided by 8 equals 4. And we've got 32 divided by 4 equals 8. So what you can hopefully see there, chestnuts, is that for every multiplication calculation, we've got 4 different ways that we can rearrange the numbers. Why don't you have a go at thinking how you could do that based on 3 times by 4? Why don't you pause the video and have a go at thinking what the 4 different calculations would be? Notice 2 a multiplication and 2 a division. Hopefully you've now written those down once you've paused the video, so let's go through them. We've got 3 times 4 equals 12, and we know that 4 times 3 equals 12. Now, if we were using division, we can say that 12 divided by 4 equals 3, and 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So hopefully you've seen the relationship there between multiplication and division. What I've got here are 2 number lines, and the first thing I want you to think about are what times tables are shown on these number lines. Have a look at what they go up in, and therefore what number timetables they represent. So here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Hopefully you've noticed there that that's the 2 times tables. And then this one we've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40, 44, 48. Hopefully you've noticed is the 4 times tables. What I want you to think about though is have a look at it in a little bit more detail. Is there anything you can notice about the pattern between the 2 times tables to the 4 times tables? To give you a little helpful hint, have a look, for example, at 4 times 2, which is 8, and then have a look at 4 times 4, which is 16. We could have a look at 2 times 10, which is 20, and then have a look at 4 times 10, which is 40. Is there anything you can notice between these 2 numbers? Hopefully what you've started to recognise is that the 4 times table is double the 2 times table. 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, we've doubled 2 to get 4, we've doubled 4 to get 8, we've doubled 20 to get 40. So if you're ever unsure of the 4 times tables, think of the 2 times tables and double it. 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 4 is 24, and 24 is double 12. 11 times 2 is 22, 11 times 4 is 44, and double 22 is 44. I always think that's a really good trick to know. So if you're ever not sure, write down the 2 times tables and then double them and you've got the 4 times tables. Thinking about what we've just done there, remember we have learnt that to multiply a number by 4, we double it and double it again. So for 15 times 4, we're going to do 15 times 2 first, so we're going to double it. And 15 times by 2 is 30. And we're going to double it again. 30 times 2 equals 60, which means 15 times 4 equals 60. We've doubled it and doubled it again. Why don't you have a think about this one? Let's try 25 times by 4. If you need to, pause the video and have a go. The first thing we're going to do is double 25. So 25 times 2 equals 50. And then 50 times by 2 equals 100, which means 25 times 4 equals 100. Good little trick, I think. The final thing we're going to look at before we start our independent task is using these symbols. Have a think. Can you remember what these symbols mean? Hopefully you've remembered that these link to our more than and less than. And remember, the largest part, if we think of the mouth of a crocodile, eats the largest number. So this first one represents less than. So the number on the left is less than the number on the right. For example, I could say 10 is less than 20. Now, the one below it, if that represents less than, represents more than. So I could say that 20 is more than, sometimes you might say greater than, 10. So the larger number is now on the left. And we know that the equal sign comes from the word equal or equivalent. So 10 would equal 10. Or you might say equals 5 plus 5. Or you might say equals 5 times by 2. So what I would like you to have a go at doing is pause the video and have a think, where could you put the numbers on the left, these calculations, using the more than, less than, and equals to symbols. When you're ready, then press play and I'll go through some of the ways you could do it, but I won't go through all of them, so you might still be right, even if I've not mentioned it. Let's do a few. So, we know that 4 times 4 is 16. We know that 16 is less than 32. Okay, we could then swap those over for this, that 32 is greater than 4 times 4. I could move the 32, go back to the 4 times 4 here, which is 16, and say that's less than 4 times 5, which is 20. I could put 2 times 4, which is 8, is less than 20. I could say that 10 is less than 4 times 5. Let's put that one back. Why don't we have a think about 32? Now hopefully you'll think, by looking at all these numbers, that 32 is the largest number we've got on here, which means we could put any number to the right of 32 and it would be greater than it. Or we could put any number to the left of 32 and it will be less than it. Are there any that are equal? So 4 times 5 is 20. There are no 20s there. 12 divided by 4 is 3. There are no 3s there. How about these? 40 divided by 4. How many 4s are there in 40 is 10. So those are the only ones that are equal. And remember, we could put them either way round. So the last ones I'm going to leave you with are 10 equals 40 divided by 4. I'm going to leave you with 2 times 4 is greater than 12 divided by 4, because 2 times 4 is 8, and 8 is greater than 3. And then I will leave you with, let's do 4 times 4 is less than 4 times 5. Hopefully, chestnuts, today you've become really confident with the 4 times tables. And the final thing I'm going to leave you with is just refreshing ourselves with our 4 times tables. So, if you want to, you can pause it and read it out yourself. You could read along with me, or you can listen. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 4 is 20. 6 times 4 is 24. 7 times 4 is 28. 8 times 4 is 32. 9 times 4 is 36. 10 times 4 is 40. 11 times 4 is 44. And 12 times 4 is 48. Well done for listening so well today, chestnuts. And I look forward to seeing how you've completed your task. Speak to you later. Bye.